In the shadows of American history, there lurk figures of pure terror. These are not your usual villains. They are far more sinister, their tales chillingly real. We're talking about serial killers, a breed of criminals that has haunted the American consciousness for centuries. Their stories are woven into the very fabric of our society, a grim reminder of the darkness that can reside within the human psyche. These predators don't just take lives, they shatter communities, instill fear, and leave a lasting impact that often stretches far beyond their reign of terror. They are the embodiment of our worst nightmares, their actions a stark contrast to the values we hold dear. Yet their stories fascinate us, drawing us into a world of darkness and fear that is both terrifying and intriguing. Today, we delve into the darkness, tracing the steps of the 5 most terrifying serial killers in American history. Our journey begins in the late 19th century with the sinister figure of H.H. Holmes. Born Herman Webster Mudgett, this man would become known as America's first documented serial killer. A charismatic con artist, he used his charm and intellect to lure his victims into a web of deception and death. His methods were as calculated as they were cruel, and his legacy is one of cold-blooded murder and calculated malevolence. In the heart of bustling Chicago, Holmes built a structure that would later be dubbed the Murder Castle. This macabre masterpiece was a labyrinth of trapdoors, hidden passages, and soundproof rooms designed to disorient and ensnare. Many who entered this house of horrors would never re-emerge, their fates sealed within its eerie, unyielding walls. Holmes' victims were often young, vulnerable women, drawn to the city by the promise of work and opportunity. Under the guise of employment or lodging, Holmes would ensnare them in his deadly trap. The exact number of his victims remains unknown, but estimates range from 20 to as many as 200. Finally, in 1894, Holmes' wicked web began to unravel. Following a trail of fraud and unpaid debts, authorities arrested Holmes in Boston. As the investigation unfolded, the grisly truth of the Murder Castle came to light. The public was both horrified and captivated by the revelations, their fascination a chilling reflection of the darkness that lurks beneath the veneer of civilized society. Holmes was hanged for his crimes in 1896, his last words a chilling testament to his remorseless nature. Yet his legacy lived on, a haunting reminder of the depths of human depravity. His story marked a turning point in American history, a moment when the nation was forced to confront the reality of evil in its midst. Holmes' reign of terror marked the beginning of a chilling era, one where monsters walked among men. This was not the end, but the beginning of a terrifying journey into the heart of darkness. As we move into the 20th century, a new face of evil emerges: Ted Bundy. In the heart of the 20th century, the world was introduced to a man who would become one of America's most notorious serial killers. Theodore Robert Bundy, known simply as Ted Bundy, cast a long and terrifying shadow over the United States. He was no monstrous figure lurking in the shadows, but a charming, charismatic man who used his allure to deceive and ensnare his victims. Bundy's reign of terror spanned the course of 4 years, from 1974 to 1978 across multiple states. He was responsible for the brutal murders of at least 30 young women, though the true number remains unknown. Bundy didn't just kill. He committed acts so heinous they still send chills down the spine of anyone who dares to delve into his dark history. But what made Bundy's atrocities even more chilling was his facade. He was an attractive, articulate law student who had a way of making people trust him. He often feigned injuries or disabilities to lure his victims, or pretended to be an authority figure. He was the wolf in sheep's clothing, the charming stranger with a malevolent secret. In 1978, Bundy's reign of terror came to an end. He was apprehended by the authorities, but not before he'd escaped custody twice. The trial that followed was nothing short of a media circus, with Bundy often acting as his own attorney. The charm that he'd used to lure his victims was now being used in a futile attempt to save his own life. In 1989, Bundy was executed in the electric chair, his death marking the end of a horrifying chapter in American history. His story serves as a stark reminder of the depths of depravity that humans can sink to, and the dangerous allure of evil. Bundy's chilling charm and ruthless killings shook the nation, proving that evil could hide behind the most unsuspecting faces. In the quiet suburbs of Chicago, a monster hid in plain sight: John Wayne Gacy. Born in 1942, Gacy lived a dual life that was as remarkable as it was horrifying. On the surface, he was an affable, charismatic individual, a respected member of his community, a successful businessman, and even a volunteer clown at local children's parties. But beneath this facade of normality, he was a ruthless predator who committed unspeakable acts. John Wayne Gacy's life was a masterclass in deception. He was the embodiment of a chilling reality, that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that walk among us, hiding their malevolence behind a mask of normality. He was the wolf in sheep's clothing, a sinister figure lurking in the shadows of suburbia. Gacy's reign of terror spanned 6 years, from 1972 to 1978. During this time, he lured, tortured, and murdered 33 young men and boys, burying most of them beneath his house. He was a creature of the night, hunting his prey under the cover of darkness, feeding his insatiable appetite for violence. His capture in December of 1978 sent shockwaves through his community. The friendly neighbor, the jovial clown, the upstanding citizen, was in fact a relentless killer. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow, a harsh reminder of the depths of human depravity. John Wayne Gacy's trial was a media sensation, drawing attention from all corners of the nation. His conviction and subsequent execution did little to erase the trauma of his actions. The memory of his crimes still haunts the quiet streets of Chicago, casting a long, dark shadow over the city. The legacy of John Wayne Gacy is a grim testament to the reality of evil. His story is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life. His monstrous acts have left an indelible mark on the annals of American crime history. Gacy's double life served as a chilling reminder that evil can dwell where we least expect it. In the late 1960s, a phantom began to haunt the night, the Zodiac Killer. Imagine a time when California, known for its sunshine and golden beaches, was shrouded in fear. A time when a faceless phantom known as the Zodiac Killer stalked the night, leaving behind a trail of unsolved crimes that still baffle investigators to this day. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror spanned from the late 1960s to the early 1970s. He claimed the lives of at least 5 known victims, though he boasted of many more. His modus operandi was as unpredictable as his choice of victims, sometimes shooting, sometimes stabbing, adding to the terror that gripped California. But it wasn't just the murders that sent chills down the spines of Californians. The Zodiac Killer had a penchant for cryptic codes and sent chilling letters to the press. He taunted investigators with his ciphers, some of which remain unsolved even today. These letters, filled with cryptic symbols and eerie threats, were his calling card, a chilling reminder of the phantom that lurked in the night. The fear was palpable and the effect was far-reaching. Children were escorted home from school. Social events were canceled. Nightfall brought with it a sense of dread that was hard to shake off. The entire state was in the grip of a faceless terror. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, the Zodiac Killer was never caught. Theories abound, some pointing to a disgruntled military man, others to a disturbed genius, but nothing conclusive. His identity remains a mystery, his crimes unsolved, a chilling testament to the cunning and ruthlessness of this phantom of the night. The Zodiac Killer's unsolved crimes remind us that sometimes the face of evil remains unseen. From Holmes to the Zodiac, these figures have left a chilling legacy. Their stories are not just tales of horror, but reflections on the very nature of evil. It's a dark abyss, one that's often hard to comprehend. Yet it's crucial we try. The psychology of these killers is as complex as it is disturbing. They were neighbors, friends, even family, yet they harbored a monstrous darkness. They were not born evil, but became so through a twisted labyrinth of experiences, circumstances, and choices. Their impact on society extends far beyond their reign of terror. They've changed the way we view safety, trust, and humanity itself. They've provoked an enduring quest to understand the roots of evil, to prevent such nightmares from ever recurring. As we step back into the light, we carry with us a stark reminder. The face of evil is ever changing, but our resolve to understand and combat it must remain unbroken.